You gotta read and watch and listen widely.
Destroying a genius in Hollywood is actually quite simple. Quietly. Place 2 words behind him. Difficulty. This is not just an actor. He is a time bomb that could detonate the entire crew. At any moment, you may have seen his masterpiece, but you don't know how many directors he has pushed to the brink of collapse when an actor is no longer willing to be an obedient puppet. Start the script by yourself. Post-production of director change forcefully or hijacked. Even post-production editors must forcefully insert applause for industry geniuses. This will immediately become a personal exclusion and curse. This kind of thing has long been nothing new in the film industry. From Marlon Brando to Christian Bale, these names are all very famous. But behind them, there is also a bunch of bad reputations for arguing and boycotting on set. But compared to the protagonist we are going to discuss today, the first few may need to be moved slightly backwards. This person is Edward Norton in the eyes of his peers. He is the most dazzling genius among actors of his generation, but in the eyes of the film companies we have worked with, he was a nightmare on set. How long has he been famous? How long has his reputation for being difficult to serve been passed down? This raises a very interesting question: paranoia and nitpicking triggered by headaches. Is this really just a side effect of geniuses pursuing perfection? Or perhaps they are just some talented individuals, selfish and rude, respectable excuses. The innocent workers around them have really been affected today. Let's uncover the truth behind this and the root of all of this. In fact, we need to start with his unique upbringing background. You see, Norton entered the entertainment industry not just to make a living. He approaches this industry with a problem-solving mindset. He was born into an intellectual family in Maryland. My father is a public welfare lawyer, and my mother is an English teacher, growing up in such an environment. The daily topics on their dining table are not about the strengths and weaknesses of the family, but rather logical debates later. He successfully enrolled in Yale University and even went to work in Japan after graduation. It wasn't until the early 1990s that he truly stepped onto the stage, improving oneself bit by bit in the small theater of New York. The turning point of fate will come soon in 1996. The casting for the movie Fear Level 1 was publicly announced. Norton, who was still unknown at the time, went to audition. His competitors are all big brands with a long history. He will play a church boy who appears to be articulate but is accused of murder. We still need to face Richard Gere, who was very popular at the time. Norton's performance directly shocked everyone, especially the final scene. It can be said to be a classic identity reversal in the history of cinema. If you go back and watch it again, you will find he actually very accurately concealed the clues of the mask slipping in the early stages. This debut directly led to his nomination for Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards. But this is not just luck, it's also strength, however. Behind the endless scenery, another voice about him also began to quietly appear. Everyone has noticed that this young man not only has excellent acting skills, but also has quick thinking. He is definitely not the kind of obedient player who only listens to the director's orders. His mind is filled with grand theories about characters and stories. He clearly stated that his attitude is very tough, and he pays great attention to details. This crazy pursuit of perfection excites collaborators, and it has also quietly sowed the seeds of anxiety in some people's hearts. Hollywood is well aware that it welcomes top talent, but they haven't figured out how to deal with this disobedient thorn. Yet, in the coming years, Norton opened a golden age that everyone envied with a series of masterpieces. But who would have thought that this would be the prelude to a storm coming? Fast forward to 1998. He took out two masterpieces that could be written into film history in one breath. In the movie The Gambling King, he vividly depicted a villain who was both cute and hateful. This character is like a powder keg that could explode at any moment, repeatedly dragging the protagonist into a dangerous abyss. But what really made his performance explode was the American Historical Archives. It's really difficult to play that neo-Nazi you must demonstrate barbaric atrocities and heartbreaking human struggles. Norton exercised crazily, completely changing the character's physique even through the screen. The sense of oppression is suffocating. He acted too realistically, leaving no room for the audience to easily forgive him. This also earned him a direct nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actor. Just 1 year later, he staged a textbook-level performance at Fight Club. This unnamed protagonist, struggling on the brink of collapse, was depicted to the extreme by him. This indifference, skepticism, and gradual loss of emotional control remain the ceiling in the hearts of movie fans to this day. In 2002, he shone again within 25 hours, a long shot of venting anger in front of a mirror. He turned The Curse of the World into a heartbreaking farewell. If you put these works together, you will find that his acting career is very broad. Whether it's madness or despair, he can accurately control it without any expression. At that time, everyone thought he was the most skilled actor in the world, but this pursuit of perfection is like a double-edged sword. His talent has not diminished, but Hollywood's attitude towards him has quietly changed. This subtle change quickly erupted in the following collaboration, before the storm completely subsides. Let's first talk about The Magician in 2006. This is a mysterious love story that takes place in Vienna. Norton played a passionate magician. Inside, he have a masochistic relationship with the female protagonist. We still have to face the sustained pressure from the sheriff, compared to his previous tense roles. This play is much gentler and more romantic. This also proves to everyone that he still has the ability to surprise the audience. But in fact, the real powder keg has already been ignited. Let's go back to when we were filming American Historical Archives. The director edited a 95-minute version, but the production team is not satisfied and requests a re-editing. At this point, Norton, as the male lead, directly intervened in the post-production work. He collaborated with the editor to create a version that was longer than the director's version. This completely angered the director. The director was very angry and even requested that his name be removed from the opening credits of the movie. Still spending money on advertising in major industry newspapers, cursing producers, and Norton publicly accusing Norton of being a narcissistic amateur enthusiast. But the most ironic thing happened. Here it was this modified version that made the director very angry, which not only helped Norton get an Oscar nomination, but it has also become a masterpiece in the hearts of movie fans. In the history of cinema, is this a blind command without understanding the rules? Or is it a reasonable protest made by the actors to protect the work? What would you think if it were? Norton has no habit of restraining himself from intervening in behind-the-scenes work. When filming Red Dragon in 2002, the director openly joked that Norton is an actor who particularly enjoys challenging authority. Norton's situation in this drama is actually quite awkward. He wants to challenge the role that was hailed as a classic in the previous episode. Although he appears resolute, He is facing Anthony Hopkins, who has turned ogres into totems in this game. Norton's performance was average, and it was difficult for him to truly step out of the shadow of his predecessor, however. In another movie, Frida and Norton present completely different sides. The female protagonist still feels grateful to this day, because at a critical moment when script creation was in a desperate situation and filming time was extremely tight, Norton quietly helped her rewrite many key parts of the script for free, without even asking for her signature. Despite being involved in behind-the-scenes work, they received vastly different evaluations. Some people grit their teeth, while others are forever grateful. But no matter what others think, Norton is always like this on set. He never thought that this script was just a script for memorizing lines, but on the contrary, this is seen as a difficult problem that needs to be solved by oneself. But this stubbornness soon led him to the most difficult obstacle in Hollywood. This wall is the quietly rising Marvel empire. The 2008 superhero blockbuster Invincible Hulk found him. Norton not only has to play the protagonist, Bruce Banner Eye personally started editing the script to inject more humanity into this Hulk, even strive to produce longer and more in-depth versions of the movie in post-production editing. But this time, the wealthy producer did not compromise with him. This movie was ultimately forcibly shortened to less than 2 hours, and the box office was mediocre when preparing for Avengers. Marvel decided to directly switch players. Famous figure Kevin Feige made a very subtle statement, claiming that they need an actor with stronger team spirit. This is actually a public humiliation, indicating that Norton is a troublemaker who is not good at socializing. Norton's team immediately counterattacked, insisting that both sides had been harmonious before the negotiations broke down. But what really happened behind this was the final collision of two ideas. What Marvel needs is an industrial assembly line component that can be replaced at any time through compliance cooperation. In the past decade, Norton has become accustomed to breaking through others' frameworks and injecting his own soul. These two cannot coexist peacefully at all, so he is a thorn that destroys the director's creativity still, the only perfectionist who refuses to compromise with mediocrity. If you face huge capital, would you choose to compromise or stick to yourself? Hollywood always says they love actors and are passionate about art, but once this passion challenges the absolute authority of superiors, the pursuit of art has become an undeniable issue. Norton kept asking questions, trying to make the character more perfect, but the superiors are no longer willing to answer, being rejected by mainstream commercial blockbusters. He can only start looking for new ways out after leaving Marvel. He won't just disappear like this, but it quietly adjusted its route. In the next decade, he became very picky. Our partners are almost all top directors with unique styles, because in front of these true masters of art, he admires from the bottom of his heart and doesn't need to compete for the right to speak. For example, in Wes Anderson's films The Kingdom of the Rising Moon and The Grand Budapest Hotel, he is willing to play those small roles with minimal but extremely subtle roles. In the director's almost obsessive, symmetrical aesthetics, actors have no room for intervention. In 2014, a Birdman asked him to play a complex, self-deprecating game. The role he played inside is just a replica of himself in reality, a talented but extremely picky person who is both loved and hated by the crew. This play itself explores the actor's self-expansion, and struggle letting him perform is undoubtedly the director's most ingenious genius move. In 2019, he finally directed This Secret Case in Brooklyn for many years. This also confirms one thing: an actor who always wants to control everything The ultimate goal must be to sit in the chair of the director and legally control the overall situation. Later, the sharp blade was pulled out. He returned to the public eye as a hypocritical tech giant accurate operation. Convenient lifting of heavy objects, it can be seen that he really enjoys playing a pure actor in other people's scripts nowadays. His filming is becoming less and less, focusing more on behind the scenes and public welfare. He was not eliminated by the times. He just turned his attention to the most expensive luxury goods. Is Edward Norton really difficult to get along with according to Hollywood's assembly line standards? There is no doubt about it. But is he the most dedicated and extreme artist among his contemporaries? The answer is also affirmative. There is actually a helpless truth hidden behind this. Difficulties and greatness may never be in opposition. They are manifestations of the same feature in different dimensions. Paranoia and fanaticism can make performances last forever. After the director asks for a card, it's difficult to turn it off like a switch. If you don't believe me, go ask the actors who have worked with Kubrick or ask the crew members who worked with Marlon Brando. At the time, extreme focus and extreme difficulty often have the same soul root. This certainly cannot be a common excuse for him to get angry or offend others on set. But this does explain why the greatest artists are often the most difficult, complex individuals to get along with. This also left us with our final reflection. In today's huge entertainment machines, patience, operations that pursue a person who refuses to clock in after completing the queue have no room to survive. Do we need perfect industrial products or flawed artistic souls? Helps Norton's own opinion. The friction generated for art is always worth it. Does Hollywood also think so? That's another matter. If you are also moved by his works alternatively, you may have a different perspective on this paranoid pursuit of art. Welcome to leave a comment in the comment section. Let's chat together. If you like today's content, don't forget to click subscribe and follow. Your support is my greatest driving force for continuous innovation. Thank you for watching. See you.